Today we'll be talking about something horrific, something very sad. Um, I actually wasn't sure if I could talk to you, if I could mentally handle talking to you, but I knew that it had to be done. We will be talking about child trafficking today. And I want to know, how did you get into this? How did you get into making documentaries about this? Because this is such a difficult thing, and not everybody, first of all, knows about it. And secondly, not everyone can make themselves to bring themselves to immerse into this. And I saw that you were initially doing content about finances, right? So how did you end up in this world?
Yeah, the short story is YouTube demonetized my channel for making I was into Bitcoin and making crypto content. And they demonetized my video because they said that I made put out a video with Andrew Tate. And they said that it was dangerous and hateful content because Andrew Tate said it was a better idea to buy Bitcoin than buy a house. So then that just kind of pissed me off. And then God closed doors and opened doors, and one thing led to the next, and I got a job offer the day that my YouTube channel got demonetized, actually, like, 15 minutes after. It was really bizarre, the timing of it. I think it was just fate. I think God wanted me to do this. And then the first week on the show, on the network on LFA TV, a whistleblower came forward with the claims that he had worked in these government agencies for the last 8 years, and he had been trafficking children for the United States government, and that there was thousands of these migrant children that are being kidnapped from countries all over the world and are being held in facilities down in Texas that were funded with our tax dollars. So when he told me that, he just asked, he's like, "Hey," after like a 3 hour interview, because I interviewed him for 3 hours because the story sounded so unbelievable. And I just had question after question after question. He goes, "Yeah, yeah, you can come down here and I can take you to these facilities." I'm like, "You can take me to facilities that have kidnapped children in them that are being funded with our tax dollars?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You can walk me up to these buildings." So, well, we can't walk up to them because the security guards will stop us, but we can go to the edge of the parking lot and you can see the building. And if we get there at the right times, we get there early in the morning, we can film the kids moving. We can film them in the transport vans. And I was like, all right, let's do it. I flew down there I don't know, it's like on like a Wednesday. I think I was on a flight Monday and I went down there for 4 days. And yeah, that's exactly what I found. Within 15 minutes of landing at the airport, I was able to go to 5 of these different facilities that had all these kidnapped children.
Okay. So you're calling them kidnap. Um, can we start from the beginning? They are kidnapped where?
From 180 different nations.
So
And
that's
and eh,
around the world, not
kidnapped,
only in Latin
trafficked, I should
America.
say. I should definitely technically define them as trafficked children, right? Because
What
they're
is the
children.
difference?
So a kidnapped children is somebody that actually there was somebody that physically stole the children from the parents, right? Which is a percentage of them. Some of these children are being lured out using like a nanny ruse, where the cartel member will go into a impoverished village and say, let's say Guatemala, for example, where the parents make, $1.50 a day. That's their day rate for an 8 hour day of work. They make $1.50. And they have 8 kids and they can't feed any of them. They can barely keep a roof over their heads. They're literally eating rice every meal. They skip meals because they're so hungry. uh, you know, uh, an organization that poses as like an elite nannying service will go in there with a good looking female. She sells them on, hey, we have this elite network of celebrities in America, and your daughter would be great to be a nanny there. She'll live in the guest house, she'll have her own room, they'll pay for her school, they'll pay her $6 an hour. So to the parents, they literally think their daughter is going to be Elon Musk rich. And they literally sign over the rights to their daughter to this trafficker that allows them to get them out of the country. And then once they get them out of basically sight of the parent, they basically break the child. And they break the child by, brutally raping them. And then they remind her after they rape her that the cartels control the village where her parents are. And if she says anything to her parents or to any authority, the cartels will kill her family. So that's one way that they get these children out. Other ways, sometimes their parents are just literally selling their children because you have 8 kids, you can't feed all 8. If you sell one for $5,000, well, then you can feed all 7 of them for the next, 4 or 5 years. So there's all different situations and scenarios on how these children are lured out. Some of them come from uh, areas in El Salvador, which is where President Bukele went in, and it's a third world country, so they don't have social nets, they don't have social programs that take care of homeless children. It just doesn't exist. They might have some orphanages, but and those are things are just as horrific as the kid would be living on the streets for the most part. But when Bukele went in and he arrested all the cartel members, it wasn't uncommon in El Salvador for one man that was a gang member, a cartel member, to have 5 girlfriends in one town, and each one of those girlfriends he would have 5 to 10 children with. So when Bukele came in and he arrested all the cartel members, a lot of times he arrested the husband and the wife, right? Well, when you arrest the mother and the father, and they had 5 kids with each children, that's one cartel member had 25 kids. All those 25 kids are homeless and living in El Salvador. So it's a lot of it wasn't common. It wasn't uncommon for people in El Salvador, if given the opportunity to get out of El Salvador and migrate to America to make a better life, they would just try it. And so some of these kids are 12, 13, 14, who have literally just voluntarily left El Salvador in search of a better life. And then once they hit Mexico, you're basically captured or taken in or lured in by the cartels or these NGOs. And then the NGOs traffic them up into America. And that's how roughly, 452,121 migrant children have arrived at the southern border without parents. So you tell me how 452,000 children magically arrive at our southern border without a parent.
That is bizarre because I saw some videos on YouTube and it's so strange because if you think, okay, they're migrating to better country, US, then why are they on their own? It just feels so strange that they're just end up there at the border without parents and with numbers, which that was the moment for me. How come they have like numbers of people that just seemed so unusual for somebody who has never heard of this child trafficking? The first strange moment is these children already come with some sort of information with them. And can you explain why this border patrol? Border patrol are people who are authorized to be there. They are law enforcement. How are they in this?
So what you're referring to is the child will come over with literally it'll just be like a folded up sheet of paper like this. And it'll either be in a plastic bag. Sometimes it's not in a plastic bag. Sometimes it's just folded up and it's just safety pinned to their shirt, or it's literally on permanent marker. It's just wrote literally right across their arm. And that's the name, address, and phone number of the person who's going to receive that. I call that the buyer's information. So what that means is that because of the system that our government has created, right? That Alejandro Mayorkas, let's put some names out there, right? Alejandro Mayorkas was the head of DHS, and he made this public-private partnership with these Mexican cartels. And then HHS, with his Health and Human Services, who was ran by Xavier Becerra, and then ORR, which is the Office of Refugee Resettlement. HHS is the organization that does the initial intake screening. They're the one that are going to coordinate the delivery of that child to that phone number on that sheet of paper. ORR is the long-term care facilities. These are the NGOs that I talked about where I said that there's kidnapped children inside these facilities, and they're located all across America. ORR is responsible for oversight over 290 of these facilities located all across America where these migrant children are being housed at today. So because of this quasi public-private partnership, which has turned America into the child trafficking capital of the world, the system is designed to move these children, and it's not designed to keep them safe. So the cartels know this. So they know now all they have to do is put this name, number, and address on a child's shirt, and they have to just deliver them to Border Patrol. So when we talk about child trafficking, there's two really dangerous parts of the journey for a child trafficker. The second most dangerous is bringing the merchandise across the border. The first most dangerous is delivering the merchandise to a buyer in America. Now, our government has systemically taken over the most two dangerous legs of the journey for the cartel members. They no longer have to traffic the children across the merchandise, if you will, across the border. They no longer have to deliver that merchandise to a buyer in America because our government's going to do that. As long as they brand that child like cattle and they put that name and address and phone number on that shirt, because of the system that Alejandro Mayorkas designed, it is part of their policy that Border Patrol agents process that child as soon as they receive them. And part of that processing in their policy is to put any additional information about a parent, a relative, or a sponsor into the child's file. So because the child's been raped and abused, 80% of them have been that have came across that border before they get there. They've been assaulted and sexually raped by every man and woman that's ever been in their life for the last year during this migration process, even including cops and corrupt government officials and military in these third world countries, right? These children, every adult around them has abused them for the most part. So when they get to Border Patrol, they've just been raped the day before the cartel member dropped them off at the border. They're told that if you don't say that this is your dad or your uncle or your aunt, we're going to come and kill you. We're going to come and kill your family. So when Border Patrol interviews that kid, and he pulls this number off his shirt and says, "Who is this?" And the kid goes, "It's my uncle. It's my dad." Of course, the kid's going to say that. And Border Patrol, no matter how they answer to that, a relative, a friend, a brother, an aunt, an uncle, their job is to take that information and put it into the child's file. And then once he puts it into the child's file, he calls for a pickup. An NGO comes and picks the child up and takes him over to HHS. And that's why I say this. It's so systematically designed to be multiple layers of plausibility, but plausible deniability. The border patrol agent just goes, "Oh, I'm just doing my job. I just put the number in the child's file. That's part of the process. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm just doing my job." And then the HHS case coordinator goes and carries out she goes and does the background checks and the initial intake screenings. And she goes, "Well, I just did the background recheck. I just, verified that that man had a legitimate ID and a legitimate phone number. And I called that man. I was just doing my job." And then the person after that, then they call an NGO, and the NGO comes and picks up the child and takes the child and drops him off at baggage claim at some airport to the man that's on the other end of this phone number and address. And the person that's delivering him goes, "Oh, I'm just the person that's delivering the child. I'm just transporting the kid. I'm reuniting the child with his sponsor. I'm just doing my job." And everybody just has a key piece. But when you really step back and you see how all of those pieces fit, you go, they're literally taking the child for the cartel member. They're processing them through this system. They're trafficking the child across state lines, and they're literally delivering the child to a name and an address that was placed on the child's shirt by a cartel member. So how can anybody explain to me how that is not child trafficking at its finest?
So why would cartel why are they doing this? Why are they bringing children to US? What do they get from that?
Oh, all the money. I mean, just to bring I mean, there's cartels that you interview that we have footage of these interviews making millions of dollars trafficking these children. A lot of the times the cartels, the parents have sold their kids, or the parents have paid the cartels $5,000 to take their kids from, Colombia all the way to America, where they think that the child's going to actually get delivered to an aunt, an uncle, or a relative. And then once the cartel has that child, they've already been paid. They're just trafficking the child. I mean, there's so many reasons why these NGOs, I think we're going to really start to find out, was why we need our government to actually dive in. So the Attorney General of Guatemala raided 5 of these NGOs: Save the Children, Arise, the Sola Plula, the American something Foundation. There's like 5 of them. I have the letter here somewhere. I don't know if I have it right here, but yeah. So they raided 5 of these NGOs. And they found that exactly what they thought, that the NGOs that were operating in Guatemala that were raided for trafficking children were also had locations here in Texas. And they knew that the children, these Guatemalan children that had been trafficked from Guatemala to America, were being found inside facilities that were being funded with our tax dollars, where the children from Guatemala were being raped by the staff members that were working at these facilities. And you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take the Guatemalan Attorney General's word for it. Give me 2 seconds. I can actually pull up this list, which is the DOJ's lawsuit. Our DOJ has a lawsuit against Southwest Key Programs for allowing children inside their facilities to be raped.
This is in America.
This is in
It,
America. This is on an official Department of Justice website. Is this complaint that I'm actually going to share over here? I don't know if you can put it up on your screen. Um,
yeah.
this is reports. Let me actually read the title of this for you guys really quick. So this is the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas, Austin Division. And this is the United States brings the actions of enforcement, the provisions of Title V, or Title 8, if you will, of Civil Rights Act of 1968 as amended, 42 USC 3601, the Fair Housing Act, and allies as followed, right? So this is basically a legal document, a lawsuit that our government has against these NGOs. And it starts off saying reported sexual abuse. This is page 10 at the very bottom where it'll say B. And I got to zoom in on this. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Southwest Key owned documents report numerous examples of sexual abuse and harassment of children by employees. Number 41. For example, one Southwest Key report describes a Southwest Key youth care worker who, in 2022, repeatedly sexually abused a 5-year-old girl, an 8-year-old girl, and an 11-year-old girl at Casa Franklin in El Paso, Texas. The 8-year-old girl disclosed that the youth care worker would repeatedly enter their bedroom in the middle of the night and touch their private areas, and he threatened to kill their families if they did disclose the abuse. 42. Another Southwest Key report describes a Southwest Key shift leader, a supervisory employee who in 2019 repeatedly raped, abused, and threatened a teenage girl throughout her shelter stay at Casa Montezuma in Channelview, Texas. The report disclosed the abuse by passing a note to her teacher one day when she knew that the shift leader was out of town on vacation, or out of the country on vacation. Her note stated that the shift leader was having sex with her at the shelter and threatened her to remain silent. She wrote in this Spanish language, which translated to, he is a shift leader. He's the boss. He can get away with whatever he wants. She reported that she believed that other Southwest key employees were covering for the protected shift leader because, among other things, he would repeatedly or regularly switch shift assignments with other staff so he could be alone with her. She also commented about the amount of time that the shift leader spent with other children. The child further reported that the shift leader had solicited nude photos of her and demanded videos of her touching herself. He made her perform oral sex on him, and he even threatened that if she reported the abuse, she would be hospitalized. The child's accounts were particularly corroborated by video footage of the shift leader entering her bedroom and her journal, also documenting the abuse. In addition, other employees observed the shift leader failure to follow bedroom check policies and routinely entering the child's bedroom, as well as entering other children's bedrooms for periods of time without other employees present. Following her report, the child was transferred to a different shelter. Don't you feel better that that poor innocent little girl got transferred to a different shelter? That's the extent. There was no, I don't hear anything about an investigation into the other children that he raped at that facility. And let me just throw one more at you. Numerous Southwest Key reports detail a Southwest Key youth care worker in 2022 who absconded with a 15-year-old boy from Casa Cocapelli in Arizona. The Southwest Key youth care worker took the boy to a hotel room for several days where the youth care worker paid him for sex acts. The youth care worker was indicted in Maricopa County Supreme Court with multiple felony counts of sexual abuse with a minor and pled guilty in March of 2022 to a felony attempted sexual conduct with a minor. I could go on. I mean, it would take us another half hour for me just to read all of the sexual assault charges by employees at these facilities that are funded with our tax dollars. So this is the hell that these migrant children are facing when they're in facilities that are funded by our tax dollars that our government pays for.
You also mentioned in the documentary that they earn something like $700 per day per child?
That's
For
what
for
Southwest Keep employees is making, roughly.
this is first of all, this is crazy amount because I have children. I know the daycares, they I don't know, in Germany, government pays what, like around 30, $40 per day. So let's say 24 hours, like 80, 100, but they're paid $700 per day per child. And then the I've seen the videos and the facilities, the everything is mediocre. And on top of that, abuse, sexual abuse, and this is something that is known, and God knows what's happening, and that is not being reported. And this is happening under government's control. It's just really difficult to understand why this is happening. But I also want to know how does this work? So if I am in US and I want to be a sponsor, what do I do? How do I register? Is there some sort of a protocol that needs to happen? Because if you want to adopt a child, there is a very rigorous thing that you need to fill application, you need to fill in the tests and interviews and background checks. If I want to be a sponsor and take this migrant children to my home, what do I need to do?
So you need the name and birthday of one of these children is the easiest way to get one, right? So if you can get into contact with one of these cartels or one of these networks that are basically slinging these children out, all you need is the name and phone number of that, or the name and birth date of that child. So you call the facility and you say, "Hey," or your number is put onto the child's shirt and they call you and they say, "Hey, you know, Louisa, we have this, we have Johnny, they call you and say, 'Hey, are you expecting a child?'" And you're like, "Yeah, I am." "Okay, what's his name?" And you're like, "Oh, it's Alex and he's 7." And they go, "Oh, okay, Alex and 7, congratulations, fill out this application." And they send you like this half-ass job application that you fill out. And then once you fill out that job application, they're going to ask you to send them an ID, any ID. It could be a birth certificate. They were literally taking expired birth certificates from like third world countries and saying, "Yep, that's a good form of ID." I went and bought this ID in New York. It took me 15 minutes off a Venezuelan gangbanger to get a brand new identity, John Smith. He made this ID in 45 minutes. So I
That
bought
looks
this.
real.
Yeah, it looks really real. It's a hologram one too, right? So you can actually see through. You can see my finger through the back of it because it's
Oh,
clear.
wow.
Yeah, so it looks legit. I bought alcohol with it before. Um,
O
it doesn't
okay.
scan, but all I'm doing is I'm sending. And this is how crazy it is, right? All IDs in America have a barcode. They'd be very easy to authenticate with the systems that we have, even if it was just by a photo. They could literally send a good enough photo to scan that barcode, and then HHS, with our resources and our government, should have had some type of document ID scanning process where they'd verify if these IDs were legit. But they weren't doing that. They were going on Google and going, "Oh, this New York ID expires in 2022. Okay, New York IDs on Google." And they were literally looking at a phone, looking at a photo of a phone, and going on Google and going, "Oh, that ID looks legit. Yeah, you get a child." And that's how. So a whistleblower came forward with 8,000 addresses of where they delivered these children to. And our investigators got through the first couple hundred, and they found, and just in the first couple hundred, they found 4 strip clubs. So the man presented a fake ID, and the dumbass had the address because when I got this ID made, I was so surprised at how, like, I got caught off guard and how quick I was able to, like, find somebody. I wasn't expecting to be out there for hours. And it happened in like the first 15 minutes we got there. So he's like, "Yeah, come with me. You want an ID? Yeah. All right. What do you want your name to be?" And I'm like,
How much did you pay?
$100.
100, that's just where is it? Not that I'm about to go and get it, but, like,
Oh, in Queens, in Brooklyn,
it
in
this
New
is in
York.
US. I thought
Yeah.
it's in somewhere in US you can get for $100?
Yeah, and he told me that he could deliver because I sent a text. I did a whole video on it where I contacted him when I got home because I had his phone number, because you meet him and he goes and takes your picture, and then you have to come back in like an hour and pick up the ID because he has to order it, and they have to, the machine has to make it, and they have to deliver it. And obviously they're not doing it right there on the sidewalk. So you go to him, you pay him, he takes your photo. Actually, no, you go to him, you tell him you want it, he gets your phone number, you takes your photo, and then you come back in 45 minutes or an hour whenever he texts you, and you go in and you pick it up, and that's when you pay him. So yeah, I was so caught off guard that I didn't even know, and I was like, I just he's like, "What do you want your address to be?" And I'm like, just," and he's like, "You just want me to make one up?" I was like, "Yeah, just go ahead and make one up." So I have a feeling that that's what they did, that they were literally just making up these addresses, and he probably thought it would be funny to, like, put a strip club address on some dude's ID, and that's what happened. And the guy went and applied and got a child. And our government is supposed to, they take the address that's on that ID, and they go into Google Maps, and they type in the address, and they pull up the house on Google Earth, and they're looking on Google Earth to see if that looks like a safe environment to put a child in. And they authorize the delivery of, for at least that we know of, 4 children to grown men whose address was a strip club in America.
So that seems extremely easy. That seems like there's nothing going on, no background check, no tests, no in-person interviews before handing over
No,
children, nothing. It's just and okay. So
and no
I
follow up either.
No follow-up either, and this is, by the way, they're getting so much money. I mean, I don't remember what you gave in the documentary, the numbers. They're getting so much money, but they cannot even have a software that can identify these IDs. And, one of the ladies, I forgot her name, she actually said one of the guys, because she wasn't sure if the ID was looked legit, so she called the person and he said, "What's your problem? I bought it for $200." And I thought, that's so blatant. Then nobody, it's just like, it feels like nobody is hiding anything. It's like a joke at this point. It's just like everybody knows it's open, out in the open. Like,
It's
that's
yeah, it's, "Oh, my ID's fake?" What do you mean it's fake? I just bought it for $200. Go get my beer, right? Like, that's literally, like, they're so brazen, they're so ballsy. This is a person who's you're trying to apply to get a child from illegally, and you would think that, like, that it would be their job, like, their mission would be to make sure that nobody with a counterfeit ID ever receives a child from our government. Instead, like, these guys are so blatant, they're like, "Dude, what are you talking about? I paid that cartel member $5,000 for this kid. I was told that any ID I give you is gonna work. Now go get my child."
so I know that US is a big country, but I think you wrote, I heard somewhere in your documentary that about 252 children disappear every day. And I think it was 11 per hour.
Yeah. So in this system that we've created, right? Our government's taken custody of 452,121 children from the day that Joe Biden took office on January 20th of 2021 until October 20 of 2024. I don't know if it's the 1st of October or the 31st of October, but we'll just say it's October, right? So from January of 2021 to October of 2024, roughly over a 4-year period, our government has physically taken custody of 452,000 migrant children that have arrived at our border. It's actually 452,121 to be exact, to the T. right? Those are the children, 0 to 17, who have arrived at our border. And when a child steps foot on USA soil without a parent, he immediately becomes property of the United States government. Out of that 452,000, our government has taken the IDs from, right, and documented and ordered and authorized the delivery of 350,000 of these children to men and women all across America, mainly men. These might be 7-year-old Asian girls who are just given to an African American from the synagogue, right? Black man, Asian little girl, like that's what we're talking about. It's so crazy, but 350,000 of them were delivered. And we say that there's no follow up, but there is follow up, right? There is one phone call in the first 30 days, and they call you and they say, Louisa, is Johnny there? How's Johnny doing? You answer and you go, Johnny's good. They go, okay, thank you. That's considered a found child. When you don't answer, or you do answer and you say, "Oh, Johnny? Who's Johnny? Did you pick up a kid at, so and so airport on, so and so date?" And you go, "Oh, that kid? Oh, yeah, that. Yeah, I mean, his dad posted or his mom posted a Facebook ad and said that they'd pay me $500 to pick their child up from the airport. I picked that kid up from the airport. I haven't seen him since I dropped him off." Right? Because when you go to the airport to pick up the child, you have to have the ID that you sent them, right? But if I ordered a child, right, all I have to do is give you this ID. You go to the airport. When the person hands over the child, it's their job because they have a copy of that ID in the manila folder. They are expecting you to hand them the same ID. And it's their job to verify that the ID in the manila folder matches the ID that's being handed to them, not to match the person that's actually handing over the ID. So that means that anybody, as long as they have this ID, can go to the airport and pick up the child. So 350,000 children have vanished that our government has taken custody of and cannot find. So if you just do the math and you do 4 years, which is whatever, however many days, 1,200 or 1,360 days or whatever it is, divided by 350,000. Let's just do the math right here. We'll do 350,000. First I got to do 365, which is 1 year. There's 365 days in a year. We'll times that by 4. That gives us a total of 1,460, right? So 1,460 days. So if we do 350,000 and we divide that by 1,460, that gives us a total of 239.72. So that means every day, because of this system that our government designed, we are roughly delivering. There are roughly 239 children every day that are getting shipped off to all these different quote unquote sponsors in all these different states across America. Those are the ones that we can't find, right?
So you're saying the government designed, but it looks like it's very well thought through system set up. It seems very, everything seems to work very smoothly.
Mhm.
Um, so why is the government doing it? Just to cater to the needs of random pedophiles in US? Why is government doing this?
So
Money?
no, money's part of it, right? So the children, I think, in my personal opinion, are just a byproduct of the system. So the goal is to collapse civilization in America, right? At no country has ever survived opening their borders and allowing their country to be invaded. So if you want to fundamentally collapse civilization in America and you want to take down the West, you have to take down America, right? Germany can fall, Switzerland can fall, Europe can fall, NATO can fall, all of them can fall, but the US isn't going to fall because of our technology is so advanced and I guess the power that we have over the world, right? It's not going to fall easily. The only way you can't invade the United States, right? We have a gun behind every blade of grass. Every single American I know has about 5 firearms at the very least. Like we're not going to be an easy country to conquer if you're planning on just invading us. You're going to have to do it like in a sly roundabout way. So when the Biden administration took office, their goal was to collapse civilization in America. They knew that they roughly had to accelerate things because Trump was never supposed to happen in 2016. 2016 was a fluke. They were supposed to have 8 years more to completely destroy America, and they were going to do so by opening our borders. And there wasn't going to be anything we could do to stop it. We've seen it under the Biden administration. I mean, they opened our borders wide open. Illegal immigrants were coming into taking over houses. And there was Trendiagua gang members that were going from apartment to apartment to apartment with AR-15s and just demanding that the American citizens pay the rent to these Venezuelan gangbangers. And our government was doing nothing to stop it. So, in order to fundamentally collapse civilization in America, you have to have your borders wide open. Any country that allows immigrants just to invade their country is absolute suicide. your crime rates are going to skyrocket. The amount of children getting kidnapped are going to skyrocket. The amount of children getting stabbed by Venezuelan gangbangers are going to skyrocket. The amount of rapes by Muslims are going to skyrocket. It's all going to happen in your country, and it's all by fucking design. It's all by your goddamn government allowing this to happen. And that's what they were doing in America. Now, in order to keep our borders wide open, the only time that the borders have ever closed in America is when the media would go down to the border and they would see the children sleeping in the dirt. They would see these children outside freezing at night down in Texas, sleeping in dirt with bugs crawling out of their hair. And they'd be sleeping in these tinfoil sleeping bags. And there would be hundreds, if not thousands of them piled up with all these dangerous men around them. The optics of that is so atrocious that it's shut our border down twice. It shut it down under Obama and it shut it down under Trump. So, in order to keep that flow of migrants steadily flowing into America, you have to move the children because cartels are going to take advantage of these networks. Children are going to arrive at these networks, specifically children that are 12, 13, 14, 15, that actually have just left their country trying to find a better life and trying to make something of themselves, right? So, in order to do that, you have to move the children. So, at first, the system wasn't all elaborately designed. It wasn't this well oiled machine like it is today. It took 4 years to kind of perfect this craft and this art of moving these children and trafficking these humans across our country. Things have all fallen into place, and that was the big plan. The plan was just to bring as many illegal immigrants into our country as humanly possible, and then give them all amnesty. And if you once you give an illegal immigrant amnesty, now they have, because of our immigration laws, they have the ability to sponsor and bring in more illegal immigrants. So basically, every one illegal immigrant that gets amnesty can now bring in five, and then once those five come in, if any of them get citizenship, then they can bring in five more. And you do that over a fewer 4 or 5 year period, and you're 30 million. Like if Biden would have got his way, he would have given blanket amnesty and gave amnesty to over 30 million illegal immigrants. Technically, 52 million citizens are not natural born citizens living in the United States as of January 1st of 2025. At least 52 million. So out of those 52 million, they could all potentially sponsor five more people. And then all of a sudden you go from a population of say 300 million in America, you bring in say 50 million, which is 1/6 of our population, and you allow them to bring in five more people each. Next thing you know, you've completely taken away every advantage of being an American natural born citizen. Your race, your religion, your history, your ethnicity, your culture, it's all gone. It's all destroyed. And then you replace people who with no allegiance to a country. They don't know what the American dream is. They don't know anything. And then civilization just falls apart. And that was their plan, their master plan to take down the West.
So in your documentary, it also says that the numbers skyrocketed between 2020 to 2021. It was about 17,000 children were being brought to the US Mexican border, and then it became 108,000, almost 108,000 after Biden got elected. And this is, by the way, has nothing to do with the politics or whether you are Republican or Democrat or whoever president you prefer. It's irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter whether you hate Trump or not, but these are horrific, verifiable numbers. So as you said, Biden was doing this on purpose, and you just explained why. I just cannot understand little babies. There were little babies who were
Came across an abandoned infant near the border early Tuesday morning. The infant was handed over to agents by a woman who says she found the infant alone.
I don't understand why this is not being so. For example, the whistleblowers, they talk about it, they're in Congress, they're being questioned, and there was a serious line of questioning of the HHS secretary Mayorkas and Becerra. They were really seriously questioned, and you can see even the mayor of New York talking about it, Trump talking about it. Are they investigated? Are they arrested? Is there something happening to these people?
As of now, I can't say. I have not heard anything. We have no. There's been nothing that I've heard of, anyways. It's sad as that may be. Tom Homan's supposed to be investigating it. There's talks of us deputizing every American citizen and creating some type of ISIS tip line, so that every American has the ability to just basically call in and say, "Hey, there's this weird family. There, it looks like they're Venezuelans. They live next to me. They got these 3 kids in their house. I never see them going to school. I never see the kids going out and playing in the yard. It's like these kids are just trapped in their house, and it's just a weird feeling. I think you guys should do a wellness check and just basically creating a way to deputize every single American citizen so that when we see something, we can say something and we can help locate these children. But it's so simple, right? We have geolocation data. The person that was receiving that child was communicating via WhatsApp to a government of employees. So we have their phone number, we have their data, we have all the geolocations of where that phone was. We also have the geolocation data of every phone that was within a 10-foot radius of this phone. And also you can just see, okay, this phone pinged at this address at this time, the next address that pinged here, and you can just go and go, okay, this cell phone is connected directly to this cell phone because of the geolocation data. And with AI and the technology that we have, it would take them a day or 2 days to literally track down probably almost all of these children.
There is, I'm blanking on his first name, Ballard? There
Yeah, Tim
was,
Ballard.
Tim? Tim
Yeah,
Ballard. So,
yep,
he mentioned that he was, planning to set up task forces with, I think under Kash Patel just
yes.
before US elections, and then Trump didn't win, and then it got stopped. Um, do you know anything? Are they reinstating the plans that they had?
I have not heard anything from Tim, or anybody on his team. I know that Tim was massively attacked by the same, fake news networks that attacked Trump and attacked Tate brothers, and it's what they do. Anybody that seems to do this, I'm just waiting for it to happen to me. I'm sure it's not far away. They just make up a bunch of lies and they smear your name and they try to bring up fake charges and get ex-girlfriends to press charges against you and a whole bunch of other just weaponized lawfare to destroy people. Tim had his turn, right? They came after Tim because of that exact reason. Not just that exact reason, but he also, after Trump lost the election in 2020 and that task force kind of fizzled out, they asked Tim, was in a podcast, and they asked him if he'd ever consider running for government office, for Senate or Congress. And he said yes. And he made the mistake of saying yes. So then that's when the opposition research teams went into play. And I think it was Chuck Schumer who allegedly gave one of these, I think it's Axios or something like that. It's an opposition research firm, $2 million with another $8 million retainer to basically go dig up any dirt they could and just completely smear Tim Ballard's name. So yeah,
This is the kind of thing that happens in, you know, countries like where I'm from. So it's very similar, and growing up in a third world country in dictatorship, you kind of think US is things are different in US. So it's just seems like the same tactics are being used. And yet we hear the words democracy needs to be, we need to spread democracy. And can you talk about this Guatemala, what happened with the elections in Guatemala and how that works?
yeah.
Election
So
fraud?
Yeah, so USAID or USAID, if they operate in your country, there is a covert military operation being carried out by our CIA and our State Department and our government inside your country, where they have infiltrated your media outlets, they've infiltrated your government, they've installed politicians, whether that's legitimately or illegitimately. There is no link that our government is not, or the CIA and the State Department and the USAID are not willing to go to basically subvert democracy all across the world. They want to install politicians that will carry out the US agenda no matter what that agenda is. And they do that by going in initially with the USAID. So USAID poses as this front organization where they're going to deliver humanitarian aid or help with infrastructure or carry out specific agendas. And they're actually going to deliver some type of aid, right? So USAID comes in, they're authorized by your government to set up a branch next to our embassy. They set up a branch. From there, they go and start funding NGOs. So they build out this network of NGO that funds NGO that funds NGO, or they fund NGO and they fund NGO and they fund NGO and they fund NGO. And before you know it, you have all these little NGOs. One might be there to, do ballot harvesting operations where they're doing get out and vote campaigns. Another one might be promoting the LGBTQ agenda. Another one might be promoting, transgender healthcare for young youth. The other one might be promoting clean drinking water. The other one might be a child orphanage, like Save the Children, right? And they have all these different NGOs, but really those NGOs are carrying out the agenda for our government. They're collecting intel at the very least, all of this information from citizens. So they have information that's actually boots on the ground of what's happening in these countries. And then normally the NED, which is the National Endowment for Democracy, acts as the staffing arm for the CIA, or the staffing arm or the recruiting arm, if you will, for the State Department or the deep state. And they'll post a job posting for a German national or a Guatemalan national in this case. And they want a Guatemalan national that fits all this criteria. They're popular on social media, they're articulate, they went to college, they have a college degree, their finances are in order, they don't have a criminal history. And they look for all of these key characteristics. And then once they find somebody that applies for that job position, they don't have to go out and look for that citizen. The citizens will find that job posting because they normally double or triple the actual pay rate in that country. So if the average Guatemalan makes 20,000 a year, this job posting is going to be for 60 or 80 or 100,000 a year. And then once this person comes in and applies and they fit all that criteria, they either bribe, blackmail, or that person's just straight up corrupt. But either way, that person's going to work for them and they're going to do their bidding. And then they'll find a media outlet that's failing and they'll go low key, go to this media outlet and they say, hey, we really like your media outlet. We know you guys can't make payroll next month. We're willing to make $100,000 donation every week, every month, every year, whatever it needs to be to keep your organization up and running. But under the pretext that we're going to pick your primetime slots, right? So congratulations. We saved your media outlet. Now John's going to be taking over the 3 p.m. slot or the 7 p.m. slot or whatever all the slots are. And then they literally just install all of the media talking pundits that they want in all the organizations that they need. And once they take over your media, then it's pretty much downhill from there. Then they use that media to attack politicians that won't do their bidding. They use that media to amplify the message of politicians that will do their bidding. They demonize judges that prosecute criminals. They promote Antifa and the organizations that are mostly peaceful out there rioting and looting and destroying towns. And they promote open border policies and they promote all of the woke agendas that basically collapse your civilization. And then over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year period, it's been like 30 or 40 years in Guatemala, they've taken over your Supreme Court. They've taken over your justice system. They've taken over most judges. They've taken over your police departments and local law enforcement, at least enough of them that they're never going to get caught doing any of their crimes. They've taken over their Congress, a majority of the Congress. And then just in 2023, they installed an illegitimate president. So in the process of this, long operation, if you will, a lot of key pieces, a lot of moving parts. Some things work out, some things get exposed, some things they get away with, but a majority of the time they remain in control. And then in 2023, because we've taken over the Electoral College, all 5 seats of the Electoral College is the organization, the part of the government that approves the purchasing of a new election software or continuous use of the previous election software. So in 2023, the Electoral College authorized the purchasing of Trep, T-R-E-P. It's a new voting software. It's directly connected to Dominion voting software. And then Trep is how do you say it? Trep is supposed to be, it was just supposed to be there just to verify, just as like a backup copy, like a cloud storage where you go in and scan your ballot and it's not tabulating any results. It's just displaying that ballot that was scanned into it up on a cloud software system. Now this Trep software was like $20 million roughly. I forget, it was quintillions or whatever their currency is over there. Forget how many million of them, but it was roughly equivalent to like $19.6 million US. Now the previous software they used was only 13 million. And they just did the exact same thing. It was literally like uploading these ballots to a cloud system. So the investigation that's happening right now, where we've had a few people arrested, was actually into the purchasing of the Trep software alone, because the 5 people, 4 of which are on the Supreme Court Electoral College, have all been suspended. They can't do their job. They've been removed from positions because of this alleged fraud into the purchasing of these softwares. So the software purchasing is one part of the fraud, right? So that's already basically been proven. We know that this major fraud happened in the purchasing of Trep. Now, Trep is the software that they use to basically certify this election. Now, you also have the creation of the Semilla party. So in order to create a political party, I'm sure it's similar in Germany, you have to go at, depending on the time or the date and the population size, depends on how many signatures you need to get on a basically a ballot to go and approve that a new political party gets started. So you have to have their name, their address, their signature, and maybe their social security number. And you have to go get all this information from X amount of people. In Guatemala, when the population size was 14.2 million or whatever in 2019, the requirement was 22,760, give or take. Don't quote me on the exact number, it was close. And what they did was they went and got all these signatures. They got about 25,000 signatures. Well, after a few citizens have called and reported and claimed that their name was used on that ballot to create that political party, but they didn't sign it. They ended up doing like a forensic audit of all of the signatures that were required to create this party in 2019. And they found that I think it was 40% were fraudulent, 8,000 or 9,000 of the signatures out of the 25,000 were fraudulent signatures. They were either duplicate signatures, so they had the same name, address, and everything on there twice. They took somebody's name and they'd use like, my name's Ryan Matta. They would switch it around and go Matta Ryan. But in Guatemala, you have like people that have like 4 names. So they would literally just moving around names, but with the same basically social security number, if you will. So 9,000 of them were fraudulent. I forget it was like 14 of them were actually dead and weren't alive at the time that they claimed to sign that they signed this ballot. So that has already been done. That fraud has already been proven. It's went through the court system, and now the Semilla party, who is the so that'd be like if Trump's a part of the Republican Party, it would be like Trump getting elected as president, and then after he's elected, we realize that the party that he ran on was completely fraudulent, and they dissolved that party. So it'd be like Trump being president but having no voting power in Congress because everybody of his party has been stripped of all their voting powers because the party that they ran on is fraudulent. And if you're an independent, you can't be on committees, you can't be on this, you can't be on that. You have the right to vote on a few things, but basically you've pretty much lost all your power within Congress. So the Semilla party has been completely dissolved. That was as of November of 2027. It's official. The party's been dissolved. They have no power. Blah 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 blah. Then we actually get down to the actual votes themselves. So when you're talking about Guatemala and their election laws, it's really nice because it's same day in person voting, voter ID, paper ballots. And so how these ballots work, you go in and you get a booklet, and the booklet will have 5 sheets of paper. The first sheet of paper will be your president, vice president. The second one will be your Congress. The third one will be your Supreme Court. Your fourth one will be what your judges, and then your fourth one will be like your local officials. So when you go and you fill out, okay, here's my vice president, president, you fill out that one, you rip it off, and you go to the table and you drop it in a slot. So there's a slot for the president. So it's literally like a wood table that has like 5 slots in it, if you will. And they just go, the table has 5 slots, and you just go and you put your president here, your vice president, your Congress, and you just rip off your ballot and you drop them into each little cubby hole. And it falls through this wooden table, and there's a clear plastic bag under it. So it falls to the table and it goes into this plastic bag. And everybody that's walking up to that table can see those bags, right? So it's very clear and transparent. And then at 6 p.m. when the polls close, they open up that table, they pull out the plastic bags, and they dump all the ballots onto the table, and they literally count them and tally them live in front of everybody. And then
Manually, one
manually,
by
yep,
mhm.
one by one. And then, there's 22,000 or 25,000 of these little polling locations all over, and each polling location is responsible for roughly about 400 citizens. So it's not hard to count 400 votes. And maybe you have 400 times 5 because there's 5 little ballots like holes or whatever. So 20,000 votes. Most places are done doing their polls by 9 p.m. Almost everyone is done by 9 p.m. So it's really like people, it sounds like it might think, wow, that'd probably be a lot of work. But when you actually think it through and you do it right,
Yeah.
I mean, our government sent, $50 million to give condoms out to kids in Gaza. So I think, for $50 million, we could carry out this entire election, no problem. It would be simple. So like money's not the object, but it's really clear, really transparent. And then at the end, as there's 3 elected officials. So you have your president, your vice president, and then I think it's like a secretary basically of the voting location. So you have at the table, at that election table, you have 3 key people that are sitting at that table: the president, the vice president, and like a secretary, if you will. Those are like the names of like the officials. And all of these officials.
Officials who are overseeing the voting process.
Yes, yes, yeah. So it's like when you go into a polling location, wherever you're at, you have like poll workers that actually work at that poll. You might have 5 or 10 people that are walking around helping people, but you have 3 main ones that are sitting at that table, and they're just making sure nobody's double voting. Every ballot's getting put in the right selection, and they're overseeing it. Now, after that table opens up, they're the ones that are counting the votes, right? And
Mhm.
they have one sheet, and that they're basically filling out, right? So to say vice president, how many total votes for the vice president? They'll double count them. All right, 75 for President Arvelo. Okay, cool. President Arvelo received 75 votes, right? And they just go down and they fill out this sheet. After that sheet is completed, at the end of the day, they need to go through. There's like 14 things that they have to do. They have to make sure that they have the number of ballots that they started with, right? So, like, how many booklets was I given? I was given 1,000 booklets at my polling location. We had 450 people come in. Then I have 550 left, right? So all of the numbers should add up. The president, the vice president names need to be written on it manually in normal standard Spanish, and then they also need to have signed them with their actual signature. They need to have everybody in Guatemala has basically like a social security number or like a driver's license number. It's something that's very common to them. It's not like private. You pretty much every document that you sign, legal document, you put this number on. It's like a tax ID number, if you will. Their tax ID numbers had to be there, and then they had to be certified. They had to have this stamp on there. And then if they had any errors or any issues with like, oh, I accidentally wrote the wrong number, you can't just scribble that out and just write in the right number. You have to basically scribble it out. You have to draw a note down. You have to sign it. And then you have to put that into a separate category because it has to go to the actual electoral college to make sure that like everything looks right. They go through it. They read your notes on it and they go, okay, we see where you made the mistake. Simple mistake. You fixed it correctly. We'll certify this. So at the end of the day, um, they upload that software, that ballot up to the cloud. And then everybody's seeing these results going into the cloud in real time. Well, at 9 o'clock at night on election night, the polls go black and they black out for about 12 hours.
What?
And yeah, and they come
You
back online the next morning at
you
8
mean there's
a.m.
no electricity or
The Threp system went down. So the
oh,
citizens,
just the system.
yeah, just the Threp, the voting system magically on election night goes down at 9 p.m. and it comes back on the next day at like 8 or 9 in the morning. And within like a 1 hour period, magically all the information was uploaded to the cloud. And out of the ballots that
Okay.
were uploaded at that point, 95.28% of them were considered fraudulent or void, meaning
But
there's a
that's, like, almost
process.
all of them.
All of them. This is a process, right? And all three of those elected officials go to training 2 weeks prior to the election just on how to certify it, how to make sure that they fill out that tablet sheet correctly. Because if more than 33% of the tablet sheets are filled out incorrectly, then that election has to be considered null and void. It has to be considered fraudulent, and they have to do basically like a snap re-election and redo the entire election across their country. And that's according to Guatemalan election laws. But 95% of those ballots came in were fraudulent or not filled out correctly. There's one thing that's really crazy is there's a stamp. So it's like think of like a notary. When you go to a bank and you get something notarized, that person that's actually verifying that like you are who you are, you gave them your ID, you signed the document, they're going, yes, I'll put my name and my reputation that I watched this happen, and they stamp it with this specific stamp. It's called the seal. Each person at the voting locations has a seal. And not one that we've seen or found actually had the official seal. Now you could see that maybe one table or 5 tables or even 10 tables out of the 25,000 slipped our mind. We forgot to stamp it. We weren't thinking, but not a majority of them, not all of them. So the question remains: it's like, where did these tabulators come from? What sparked this investigation was one of the attorneys actually went and found his table and where he voted at, because it's, each city or zone has like, zone 325. He's like, okay, I voted in zone 325. He goes to their election software and pulls up 325. And he was just looking at the tabulator that was filled out from his place that he voted. And he's like, I found like 3 things that would make my own ballot fraudulent. So then he started looking into all of them. And he's like, he uncovered this massive fraud. And then the attorney general's office actually went through with like a forensic analysis. And they're the ones who finally did a full report, which shows that 95.8% or 95.3% of those ballots were fraudulent. And I could show you this. This is what my next documentary is going to be called, Operation Amber Alert Regime Change. It'll be coming out in probably like 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm going to walk people through this election process step by step so they can actually, if you had more time, we could sit in here, we could do it together. I could pull up their website. I could go through it with you. I could show you where all the fraud is, and you'd be mind blown.
I also loved how in one of your documentaries, you drew parallels with how this was done in Ukraine and in US. So they follow this similar suit in like everywhere when they're doing this.
Yeah, everywhere, every country that USAID operates in. My next one will really lay it out. It's Brazil, Venezuela, Honduras, Nicaragua was a big one with the Sandinistas. That was a complete failed. And now, like, you can't even really go into, Nicaragua with a USA passport. I mean, you can, but it's like you should be careful in those countries because
Why?
because what the US has done. It's like we're so
Oh,
dangerous, like you might seem like a normal citizen, but a lot of normal citizens came in and we were CIA or we're feds or we're undercover and we're there trying to basically subvert democracy or build coalitions of armies. We go into these countries and we set up these NGOs, and then we hire local citizens. But really, with like our organizations, right? When we're promoting LGBTQ, we're giving you guys paid time off to go to this rally or this protest. We're literally indoctrinating these younger generations, and then we radicalize that younger generation, and then we organize these protests where we pay protesters to come. So it looks like everybody in the country is all rallied behind this cause, when really it's just a bunch of paid people that are actors that are hired by our government that are being paid to stand out there. But just because the masses are doing it, like the sheep in the herd mentality attracts other citizens. And then once they get the masses out there, then they just rile them up and they turn violent and they hire thugs and they hire cartel members to go through and start throwing rocks and sticks and breaking things and vandalizing things. And then herd mentality takes over. And next thing you know, you have a color revolution.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to child trafficking because what I found when I heard in one of your documentaries is that if I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, DynCorp, I think.
Mhm.
This is something that is not new, right? This happened way before. And so child trafficking has been happening for quite some time with the help of the US government. If this DynCorp is really, I mean, has it been investigated? It was back in 1990s, wasn't it?
I have not heard of any follow ups or any significant investigations. And most of the time, you're seeing, like, look at the Oklahoma City bombing. There were so many questions we have about that. And who was the judge that sat on the Oklahoma City bombing case? Merrick Garland. Who was the attorney general under the Biden administration? Merrick Garland. Alejandro Mayorkas, the head of DHS, he oversaw that scandal where celebrities and some alleged politicians. There was they called her like the DC Madam, and she was delivering female escorts to these elite celebrities and supposedly politicians. And that was like a huge court case that had all this international attention, and then it just kind of fizzled away. And we never really heard anything of it. And Alejandro Mayorkas was the judge who oversaw that case as well. So you're seeing that, like, this history. Like, look at Jeffrey Epstein, for example. Jeffrey Epstein was known Mossad, right? Known to be carrying out spy operations for Israel, was delivering underage children to Bill Clinton in the White House. 19 times Jeffrey Epstein visited our White House to meet with Bill Clinton. 19 times. He flew on Epstein's jet, was it like 29 times? The president of the United States, Jeffrey Epstein, had a giant photo of Bill Clinton, the president of the United States, in a blue dress with his legs
Mm,
crossed. What
I
does that
remember.
tell you, right? That you're this blackmail operation, it goes back so far, so much longer than this. I mean, just like the United States and the CIA became the number one heroin traffickers. They literally took over the heroin trade because they wanted to use the money that they were getting from selling heroin as a black ops funding. Because that way, if you're carrying out these big operations and you need millions of dollars from the United States government, the CIA has to go to Congress and get approval for that. USAID does not. USAID does not need funding. They do not need Congress approval. So they pretty much have the power and the backing of the CIA, but they have the ability to carry out these covert missions without the approval of the president of the United States or the approval of Congress. So that's
Wow,
why
this is
USA.
so perfectly set up then. Everything works so smoothly. I also wanted to know, do you know anything about the what happened in Haiti and the Hillary Clinton and whatever was found in her laptop?
Wish we did. I wish we did. I know that what they found in the Anthony Weiner laptop. There's only two people that, or one person that's still alive that has actually seen the Anthony Weiner laptop. I know that Laura Silsby got caught trafficking 40 children twice out of Haiti, and she's now the person that runs the Amber Alert system. Do you have Amber Alerts in Germany?
Uh, I don't know, honestly.
So it's basically if a kid gets kidnapped, they send out an alert to every cell phone in the area that tells, like, the
Oh,
description of the child, the description of the person that was taking it, what she was last seen wearing, what her eye color is, her hair color, and they give you a photo of it. And like your phone can't not get them. Maybe it can not get them, but normally you're supposed to get them. So it's this huge alert network that says, "Hey, a kid's kidnapped." If we have everybody in that area looking around for that child at that exact time, there's a higher probability that we're actually going to get an innocent citizen that's going to, just a citizen that's going to see something and call and go, "Oh, yeah, I just think I just seen, Julie, she's 7. I think I just seen her in this car, blah, 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 blah." Um, so this is Amber Alerts, right? It's kind of what I mimicked my name in my documentary Operation Amber Alert off of. So Laura Silsby was like given the position to run and head up Amber Alert system. So a
wait,
woman
is
who was
she
caught trafficking children out of Haiti, 40. She got caught with 40 children twice. She's directly
I
tied to the Clintons. Yeah.
and that is actually established as something that is, I don't know, verified? Is how is
Yeah.
she then? So because I remember, I heard this from Ian Carroll. I think he was doing a talk, and then he said there was this lady who was caught in Haiti she was kidnapping people from orphanages in Haiti, and then that email was found in Hillary Clinton's laptop. So I think that's everything that is known. I don't know if there is more to that, but I just thought maybe, because it's also related to child trafficking.
Yeah, so if we just ask Grok, says Lauren Silsby, later known as Lauren Silsby Gaylor, was involved in a highly publicized incident in Haiti following the devastating earthquakes on January 12th of 2010. As a founder of New Life Child Refuge, the NLCR, a nonprofit organization she established in November of 2009 with the aim to rescue and care for orphaned and abandoned children. Silsby led a group of 10 American Baptist missionaries from Idaho to Haiti. Their stated mission was to rescue Haitian children orphaned by the earthquake and bring them to an orphanage in the Dominican Republic, which we know is all a child trafficking operation. Silsby and her group attempted to cross the Haiti Dominican Republic border with 33 Haitian children, ages 2 months and 12 years, without proper authorization or documentation. The group was stopped by Haitian authorities at the border, and all 10 missionaries were arrested and charged of kidnapping and criminal association.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
in
initially, the missionaries faced a serious charges that could have led to a lengthy prison sentence. Kidnapping carried a potential penalty of 15 years. However, the legal process unfolded amidst diplomatic tensions and significant media attention. On February 4th of 2010, the 10 were formally charged, but over time, the cases evolved. By mid-February, 8 of the missionaries were released by Haitian judges, Bernard Santi Ville, after it was concluded that they had not knowingly committed a crime, and they returned to the United States. Yeah.
Okay. It's everything seems to yeah, but what comes to mind is what, I think Tim Ballard, he said that, he feels like satanic forces are zeroing in on children like never before, and that coupled with how you said that you feel like US government is hijacked by elite pedophiles. And can you explain this? Like, are we talking Biden, Clinton? Uh, what's going on with these elite pedophile? What is that?
It goes down like you get down like the conspiracy rabbit hole where people just think you're crazy. Even though I just presented so much evidence that our government's running a child trafficking ring, as soon as you start talking about this elite network of pedophiles, everybody seems to like try to just turn their head and bury their head in the sand. And I just say, listen, like Laura Silsby, with the backing of the Clintons, attempted to take 33 children with missionaries and like a legit front organization and a legit NGO that she had backing and claims that she was actually going to, safely take these children to an orphanage in Dominican Republic. And they couldn't get 33 children out of Haiti. Somehow, magically, 190,000 have been taken out of Guatemala alone. In the last 4 years, so out of that crazy number, I tell your audience 452,121, 190,052 of those children came from Guatemala alone. That is 1% of their entire population. They have a population size of roughly 15 million. Their child population size is 17 million. So somehow 3% of the entire child population in Guatemala has arrived at our southern border without a parent. That would be the equivalent in the United States with a population of 350 million, roughly 6.7 million children, just magically up and getting out of America somehow and arriving at Germany's border, arriving at, China's border. I mean, it's not like all these children came from a very, very close, distance. Not like they're just Mexican children. I mean, they came across multiple borders. How do you move 190,000 children without proper documentation, without a parent, across that many borders and get them to a country? The only way you could do that is if it was a systemic military operation that was being carried out by all levels of all government in multiple countries, and you had compromised government officials at every level. It's the only way. So when I say that there's an elite network of pedophiles that rape children in America, I don't know how people still question it at this point. I mean, we literally had Jeffrey Epstein delivering minor children to the president of the United States. The president was sitting in Epstein's island in a dress. Then he also has a photo of George Bush with his legs crossed, throwing an airplane at buildings. Looks like the 9/11 and buildings in the Twin Towers. Like that signifies, like that is Jeffrey Epstein going, listen, I'm the fucking man here, right? You guys work for me. You're going to do our fucking bidding. You're going to do what we tell you because of the blackmail that we have on you. And it goes all the way back to George Bush Sr., who was alleged to have taken children and out to these islands in Costa Rica and these private islands where he'd have his way with these little boys in these private islands. And the Bushes have been intertwined in this. It goes all the way back to the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas. They're all involved in this child trafficking operation, pedophilia, the Podesta emails, Pizzagate. I think it's all real, and I pray that they're going to release the Epstein list. Like if there wasn't anything to hide and there wasn't this elite network of pedophiles, and there would be nothing to hide on the Epstein list. You would release the Epstein list. You'd let the world see what was on it, and we would make our own decisions. The fact that they're hiding it should be the number one red flag that says, hey, there's definitely something more here. I don't know what it is. I don't know who's all involved in this pedophile elite network, but if I'm painting a picture, my old partner says this really well. He goes, if I'm painting a picture and I'm connecting all the dots, right? And I get around the picture and I've connected 8 out of 10 dots or 7 out of 10 dots, right? I can pretty much tell you exactly what that picture is going to look like. I might not know every detail, right? But enough
Yeah.
of it's been painted for me to get a very clear idea of what's going on here. So the clear idea that I have right now is that there is this elite network of pedophiles that have been trafficking children from all over the world. They have their ability to get their hands on children from any race, any ethnicity, any age, any demographic. They can get it all. And the only way that you could do that is if you had the ability to basically procure this merchandise in these countries of origin that were very specific to the needs that you had. And what it looks like to me is that Save the Children, who is an NGO that just got raided in Guatemala, they were raided in Guatemala for trafficking children. When the attorney general raided the foundation, she found just that, all the evidence of that they were trafficking children from Guatemala to America. They have facilities that operate in America. In 1985, Ghislaine Maxwell was doing a fundraising with her father, Robert Maxwell, for the foundation Save the Children. We know that Robert Maxwell was Mossad. We know that he was one of the most elite Mossad agents and one of the most famous Mossad agents of all times. We know that Ghislaine Maxwell was Mossad. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. Those are proven facts that we can prove. Okay, so then why is Mossad working with this NGO, Save the Children? Then why in 2001 did the Clintons start working with Save the Children? In 2007, the Clintons working with Save the Children. In 2011, it was the Obama Foundation working with Save the Children. In 2014, it was the Obama administration working with Save the Children and doing some type of fake vaccine campaign in Pakistan, which they got busted, which was directly connected to Save the Children. In 2017, Joe Biden's wife, was elected as chair of the board of Save the Children. Out of all things, why would somebody like that be elected as chair of the board? That's like the top board of directors of the entire Save the Children Foundation operation. You got Jill Biden. Then in 2019, it's Prince Harry. In 2021, it's Prince Harry. In 2024, even right after the attorney general raided this foundation, Prince Harry and Meghan go and host some type of event with Save the Children. Just last week, what's her name? I forget the celebrity, but she was doing a fundraiser at Save the Children where she was reading one of the banned LGBTQ books, which teaches children about porn and sex and like sucking dick and all this other crazy shit. She was reading this children's book at a fundraiser event at Save the Children to the children that were staying at Save the Children. Like it's demonic. And in my personal opinion, I think if we actually got a full investigation in this, we got cell phones, we got offshore bank accounts, you're going to see that when these celebrities go on these events and they go to these Africa and they go to this village with Save the Children and they're helping these little kids over in Haiti or in Africa, they're not really there to help them. They're there to get the photo op. They're there to promote the organization. They're there to raise money because just them celebrities being there will bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars. And all of those donations that come in is how they purchase these children. And then they get to pick out whatever kids that they want. They go, we'll take those two. And then magically those two just vanish from that NGO and they get delivered to wherever these celebrities are. That's my personal opinion. I don't have any proof to back that up. But you just look at the people that are promoting it. You look at the people that we know that are on Epstein's list and you go, wow, literally every single celebrity or politician that we think we know is like 100% on the Epstein list because we have flight logs. So we know at least the flight logs match they were on that flight, are directly connected to Save the Children. And Save the Children got raided in the NGO in Guatemala. Then 10 days after, even when all that election stuff, fraud I was talking about happening earlier, none of that got Anthony Blinken on a flight. Anthony Blinken being our Secretary of State, right? The Secretary of State here in America, Anthony Blinken gets on a flight randomly flies to Guatemala 10 days after they raid the NGO, Save the Children, holds a press conference with President Arvelo and tells President Arvelo, the fake president that we installed, what a great job that he did at eradicating corruption in Guatemala. What a great job he was doing with his campaign. And this man's campaign that he ran his entire presidency on was, I'm going to get this attorney general fired. I'm going to remove her from power. Once I get into office, I'm going to have her investigated and she's going to be fired. Well, the president, because of the constitutional laws, doesn't have the authority to do that. So none of that, right? Got Blinken on a flight. Blinken gets on a flight, congratulates the president on his anti-corruption campaign. He ran his campaign just like Letitia James in New York ran her campaign on I'm going to get Trump. He ran his campaign on I'm going to get Maria Porras. Then he goes on to tell President Arvelo how much money is going to be coming in investments to Guatemala. Guatemala has this bright future and all this money, billions of dollars is going to come into Guatemala. But if he doesn't get rid of this corruption problem, but if you don't fire this attorney general, well, maybe that money's not going to come in then. Just like Blinken and just like Biden and Burisma in Ukraine. We flew down there, holds a press conference. So, well, if the prosecutor's not
Yeah,
fired, well, he ain't getting the money. Well, son of a bitch, right? He got fired.
yeah.
Same playbook.
By the way, do you know Annika Lucas? She survived a pedophilic ring, and now she talks about her experience. And in a PBD podcast, she named Rockefeller and she named Justin Trudeau's father
Yeah.
as pedophiles. And yeah, so this is there's no conspiracy theory. It is actual conspiracy theory is actually means um that something that small group of people conspire. There's no there I mean, I know it's used as a like a negative label, but actually it means that there are a small group of people on conspiring, and it's sort of like a secret. There's I know that in America everybody starts their, oh, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not into conspiracies, but I don't think we should be worried about this word. If you're a conspiracy theorist, it means you're thinking, so it's a good thing. You also mentioned that your life is at risk.
I'm sure.
Why? I mean, you're just saying something that is illegal. Why should your life be at risk?
Because there's like, I think the Clinton body count is up to like 130, right? So it's like every single person that's attempted to expose this or has went after these organizations, at the very least, has had their life destroyed. So meaning like they make up fake shit about you, they publish stories about you in the news, these people have access to your cell phone. So I think God sent me, right? Like I'm no angel. I'm not trying to be a politician. I'm not trying to say I'm the greatest guy and I've never done anything wrong or I have this perfect image and ego that I'm trying to like uphold, right? I'm just waiting for the time. They have every phone call, every text message that you've ever sent, every video you've ever taken, every photo that you've ever taken in your life is all backed up on some server somewhere, right? So, like, think about it. When you're 18, every dick pic that a guy sent you, every time that you took a picture that you shouldn't have been taken, or you filmed a video with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, like all of that information is out there somewhere, and these people have access to it. So when you get pissed them off enough and you become famous enough, that shit starts getting leaked out there. So it's like it's just a matter of time before God only knows. And then with AI and the way that they have the ability to fake images now, it's just a matter of time before they start coming after everybody. So like nobody's ever done this and then not been basically smeared and had their life destroyed. So I'm just waiting. I just hope I hit them hard enough where it hurts before they come after me. So
Have you been already on Joe Rogan podcast talking
nah,
about you? No,
nah,
not in Mason.
they don't really. My stance on Israel kind of gets me banned from most places. So
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with that. This is so much bigger. This is children, innocent, sweet little children we're talking about. It has nothing to do. I just have you been like on Lex Fridman show? It shouldn't he be the one, like he loves people. He's all about love and beautiful life. Shouldn't he be the one who provides his platform to help stop this horrific crimes? I
so
just don't understand.
Well, you have to come to the realization, right, that our government, right, is controlled 100% by APAC. They openly brag about controlling about 98% of our politicians. It might be 96. There's only a few that don't take APAC money. And those
What is
few,
AIPAC?
the Israeli, uh, Israeli something is Israeli Defense Fund or whatever that I don't even know what it stands for, APAC, but it's the Israeli lobbying firm, right? It's the largest one. They control everything. We send billions of dollars to Israel. Israel gives money to APAC. APAC buys U.S. politicians. It's pretty much that simple. So you hear people like what's his name, the guy from Kentucky, Thomas Massey. Rep. Thomas Massey was being interviewed by Tucker Carlson. He goes, everybody in Washington D.C. has an APAC guy. And what that means is everybody that votes on everything, everybody member of our government, they have a lobbying firm that's behind them. So when they want to pass a bill, there's some large corporation or entity that has funneled basically a bunch of money into that politician's election campaign for next election. And they'll donate 50,000 if he votes this way, or 100,000 or whatever they have to buy. And there's AI Tracker on X is a really good one. AI Pack Tracker on X tracks all of the money that these people receive from Israel, and it's billions and billions of dollars. But long story short, so if APAC and Israel control 98% of our politicians, and they literally say jump, Israel says jump, and our politicians say how high. And you go, okay, why was our border open? Well, it was Congress's job to defund this. Congress had all the oversight power to go into any one of these organizations. So when in 2023, when the House Republicans took control of the House, that means that the members of the House they control the power of the purse. They're the ones. None of this operations operate without money. So when Republicans took control of the House, all they had to do was just change legislation, pass a new law, write in a new stipulation, or just not fund these operations or defund them. They could even go and pass legislation that can allow them to defund things that they've already previously funded. In 24 hours, if they wanted to, they could have shut down this entire operation at the very least in 2023. And they chose not to. Not only did they choose not to, they increased funding to all of it. So you have to look back and say, okay, we have our government that's controlled by Israel, and our government's voting in favor of running these child trafficking operations. Why would Israel want our borders wide open? Why would Israel want to fund these child trafficking NGOs? Why would anybody want that? And it's just you can't answer that question. Nobody wants to ask that question. So I think at the end
But
of the day, this entire thing points back to Israel in one way, shape, or form. It might be the Biden administration. It might be Blinken that was kind of calling the shots and being the kingpins, but Blinken's answering to somebody, and he's answering to Mossad. He's answering to Israel. Jeffrey Epstein, not one person on his client list has been arrested. So it's like, I think it all points back to Israel at the end of the day.
But I don't understand why would these big podcasters who have big platforms, why can't they have you on? I just don't understand how. I mean, aren't they the ones who always say, "Oh, they discuss the deep state, they talk about how, CIA is involved," and it seems like their reputation is that they can talk. The people watch them because they are so tired of the lies being told by the media, and that's why we watch them. And I mean, I've been watching Joe Rogan, all these big podcasters for years now, and I feel like the way that I see it is they are the ones who the are brave, that they are brave, they're going against the deep state, they're discussing all this, but I just don't understand because you haven't been your documentaries, I think that you got millions of views, just you made it happen on your own. And by the way, YouTube is not going to let this be published. By the way, you cannot publish, right, on YouTube, your
I just published
documentary.
this last one,
Oh, really?
but
Okay.
it's got like 300 views. So was they're letting me publish now. I think because the Trump's back in office. I didn't try before Trump got back into office, but it's got 300 views, and my ones on Twitter got millions.
Right, so you were able to do, and it just seems like you should be the one who should be on these podcasts. This should be like the number one thing. It's about babies, it's about children. You should be already been there. And I don't understand why they never have people who, I mean, they talk about everything else, but not this. And that's so frustrating and annoying.
You know,
Um,
I thought so when we got my first documentary, when hashtag Traffic came out in September of 2024, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Right? This is such a well crafted documentary. And like a lot of people that watch my documentaries, like they're not even like a documentary. It's like a hybrid between a documentary and a film because it's so engaging. And it's like every second I have your attention, I'm going from scene to scene to transitions to building up momentum to slowing down momentum. It's literally scripted and wrote similar to a movie, if you will, but I'm still telling you a story and delivering it in a really consumable and digestible way. So when I released Trafficked, I was like, wow, I was so impressed with myself because that was really my first big main documentary that I put together. And it was so well wrote and scripted. And everybody that watched it, even in the theaters, like, normally you can see if people get bored in a movie, they're on their phone or we went to this theater for a music festival, and even people had food on their table, like they were serving food, and but like people were like laser glued to the screen. My partner didn't even watch the film. He just watched the audience the whole time. So like we seen the reaction of people, standing ovations for multiple minutes when the film ended, and everybody that watched it was so like, this is going mega viral. And then it didn't. Like, Trafficked only got like 33,000 views or something like that, or maybe 50,000 at the most, but those weren't even paid. We only sold like maybe 11,000 copies. Right. And that documentary cost me over 100 grand to make. So that's when I decided, okay, like it's a lot more expensive to make a documentary with two people because you have two flights, you have bigger Airbnb, you need to get extra space in a car. And then the main extra cost is like you're trying to fly out together and you're trying to fly back home together. So a lot of times to get those flights to line up, you just got to buy the more expensive one, or somebody's gonna be sitting in an airport for 12 hours, or they have to connect like 26-hour flight to get home. So long story short, I just decided I know I feel like I had like God sent me on this mission and he wanted to make sure that I made enough noise to get these children free. So the second one I put out, I was like, okay, now I'm just going to do this for free, and I'm just going to put a donation link. And God willing, if this is what God wants me to do, then He's going to figure out a way to get this video in front of somebody that's going to donate $5 or $10, and enough of them donate together, we'll be able to put together at least 25 grand per documentary. Like that's my bare minimum. Like I have to break even 25 grand. And even then, if I really probably added every meal I ate at an airport and every little expense and gas in the car, I'd probably be over 25 grand. But at least if I can get 25 grand back, I'm cool with writing off the rest. It's good enough for me because then I can make the next one. And that's my goal, is just to keep making film after film after film. Now I'm focusing on child trafficking, but I have one that's coming out next month or a little month after. It's on El Salvador, and how our government had basically turned El Salvador into the murder capital of the world with USAID, and how Kelly had saved them using Bitcoin and God. The saddest part is how easy that we could fix this. Right. That's what I think the piece everybody's missing is like, how is our government doing this? How it's all the government, right? All we have to do is fix our government. And that's why I made the documentary on El Salvador, because it shows the world really what can happen, right? How easily you can fix a country in 2.5 years, from the deadliest country in the world to the safest country in Latin America. I would go as far as probably saying one of the safest countries in the entire world right now. You could let your 10, 12-year-old kid walk across that state or walk across that country, and you're not going to worry about your kid getting kidnapped or trafficked or stolen. If anything, your kid's going to get returned back to you by some innocent person that just is worried about your kid. Like that's how safe El Salvador is. It's the
Yeah,
safest
but
country. It'll be
unfortunately,
Dubai.
United States is completely different kind of beast, isn't it? I don't think it's
Too big. There's too much. It's too corrupt right now. It needs a complete reset. And then unless Trump's really willing to investigate every single politician and every single bribe and every single kickback, which it looks like that's what Doge is doing. If that's what Doge does, great, we'll be able to save our country. If not, after this administration, it'll be the same shit again.